Welcome to This Explainer. We're going to jump right into something today that we literally all face, yet somehow it always leaves us feeling totally paralyzed. I'm talking about that freezing sensation when someone we care about loses a loved one. We've all been there, right? You desperately want to help, you want to ease their pain, but you freeze because you just don't know what to do or what to say. So today, we're going to dig into the source material to discover exactly how to be truly helpful, how to show up effectively, and how to navigate those incredibly delicate moments with grace.
So here's our roadmap for today. We're looking at 4 main things. 1. Showing up for the grieving. 2. Practical and financial assistance. 3. The real power of the right words. And 4. What not to say. All right, kicking things off with Section 1, Showing up for the grieving, and how we overcome that paralysis.
Now, what's really fascinating here is the emphasis the source places on the power of touch. It notes that physical contact, we're talking a warm hug, maybe a kiss on the cheek, is usually experienced as a way bigger comfort than just a standard verbal message or a stiff handshake. It actually echoes some ancient wisdom. The source references 2 Corinthians, reminding us that when we're comforted in our own struggles, it equips us to pass that exact same comfort right along to others. Sometimes, when words completely fail us, just your physical, comforting presence literally speaks volumes.
So, how exactly do we vocalize that presence? Well, you want to express genuine sympathy, right? Saying something like, "I feel it with you," or "We share in your loss," is absolutely wonderful. But, and this is a huge but, you got to be extremely careful not to claim you understand their exact pain if you haven't actually lost a loved one yourself. The source explicitly warns that faking that shared experience can cause immediate annoyance. It basically makes it impossible for the grieving person to accept anything else you say. It's a delicate balancing act, really. You want to keep them from feeling totally isolated? Sure, but you absolutely have to give them the alone time they need to process this massive new reality.
Moving right along to Section 2, Practical and Financial Assistance, because, as they say, actions speak louder.
Let's be real. Immediately following a death, the logistical burdens are just absolutely crushing. There's this tiny, high-pressure window of time where a million things have to be bought, fetched, and arranged. By directly rolling up your sleeves and helping with this immediate checklist, stuff like making funeral arrangements, organizing the food, running interference on that endless stream of incoming phone calls, you act as a critical shield for the bereaved during those incredibly chaotic first few days. You're basically taking the weight of the world off their shoulders when they can barely even stand.
And this next part is brilliant because it illustrates that your job definitely isn't over just because the burial is done. You see it all the time, right? People show up in droves for the funeral and then just kind of vanish. But the source material explicitly stresses the need for continued support, emotional, practical, and financial, for at least 4 months after the passing. Because grief absolutely doesn't magically end when the guests go home, and neither should your support.
Okay, we have to talk about money. It's usually the giant, unspoken elephant in the room, but financial support both before and after the funeral is absolutely critical. This is especially true if the deceased didn't have life insurance or if they were the primary breadwinner for the family. The source gives this beautiful historical example to put it into perspective. Just like King David provided lifelong financial and practical support, literally giving him a seat at his table, to Mephibosheth after Jonathan's death, stepping up with financial help is a timeless, incredibly profound act of deep care.
Which brings us to Section 3, The Power of Right Words, acting as an ointment for a broken heart.
While actions are huge, communicating truthful words of comfort really does ease the pain. But what exactly should you say? Well, share how you appreciated the deceased. Share your admiration for the way they lived their life. Share very specific, fond memories or even the lessons you learned from them. And what's really a game changer here is the source's suggestion to share previously unseen media. Sending the family nice photos, old text messages, audio recordings, or videos they might have never even seen before provides just immense emotional assistance. It's like you're giving them brand new pieces of their loved one to hold on to. How amazing is that?
But remember, words are also expressed through respect, and simply attending the funeral is a profound sign of that respect. The source highlights this fascinating historical burial of Jacob. When Joseph went up to bury his father, the servants of Pharaoh and the elders of Egypt actually went right alongside him. This brilliantly shows that showing up to honor a life totally transcends any differences in religion or culture. It's really just a universal language of support.
All right, now for Section 4, What Not to Say. This is the empathy pivot we all need to pay attention to.
We hear these all the time. Everything will be all right. It's just one of those things. You'll get over it. This is perhaps the most common set of cliches out there. And look, while they're usually meant to give a sense of hope, they completely minimize the devastating reality the person is facing right in that moment. Think about it. To the grieving person, literally nothing feels like it will ever be all right again. So hearing this, it can feel incredibly dismissive.
Another huge trap is attempting to over-spiritualize the death. Telling a grieving family that the Lord came to pick one of his best flowers or the Lord had need of him often triggers totally justified anger instead of comfort. And even worse, actually scratch that, this is definitely worse, is questioning someone's right to mourn. Saying something like, "Why are you crying like that? You're a believer, you shouldn't mourn like that." Wow, that is deeply insensitive and completely invalidates their very real, very human pain.
And you know, timing is literally everything. Never, ever ask the person about the future too soon. Asking a question like, "So, are you going to sell the house now?" forces the bereaved to think about massive life changes way before they're ready. I mean, they still need significant time just figuring out how to live the next hour without their loved one, let alone mapping out their real estate future.
This next one is a stark reminder of human boundary violations. The text specifically warns against inappropriately asking for the deceased's personal belongings. Just imagine someone asking, "Hey, who are you going to give your mother's clothes to? I hope you'll consider giving some to me." It sounds totally unthinkable, right? But it actually happens. This is an incredibly inappropriate thing to do, and it must be avoided at all absolute costs.
This one might seem super obvious, but we must never criticize the dead in front of their loved ones. Saying things like, "Well, he really failed as a father," is just unbelievably cruel. The source echoes the wisdom of Ecclesiastes here, reminding us that the deceased part in this world under the sun is done. Their memory needs to be respected, and the family absolutely should be spared any of your negative judgments.
So how do we sum up the right and wrong way to handle all this? When we compare our modern urge to verbally fix grief and give advice way too soon against the ancient wisdom of Job's friends, the lesson is crystal clear. When Job lost everything, his friends came to him, but get this, they didn't speak a single word for 7 whole days. Why? Because they recognized his initial grief was simply too massive for words. Sometimes the absolute best thing you can possibly say is nothing at all.
Which leads us to the most crucial takeaway from this entire explainer. You don't need to cure your loved one's grief. You really don't. You just need to be powerfully, quietly present. 9 times out of 10, you don't need to give advice. You merely need to listen. Just having someone available to share the burden is exactly the soothing support they need. So let me leave you with this. Are you ready to stop fixing and start listening?